you look into what the idea regarding the quantum field is, and this is something that has been handed down from scientists that are working in fields of, you know, string theory, scientists that have really gone outside of the established paradigms of science. And they are figuring out that there's this field of possibility that exists where everything is very fluid. All information exists there, but it's mutable, it's accessible, and it is basically activated upon our awareness.
Hey everyone, my name is Sarah and welcome to Her Ascension Story, the podcast that proves the world is transformed by every hero's personal adventure. Here we talk about the real and the raw things that we should all be talking about more. So if you want to be a part of the movement of getting real about the deeper, more meaningful things about life, be sure to subscribe and follow and get ready to get real. My hope is that this platform inspires you to explore and expand new empowering beliefs about yourself so you can make your own impassionate impact too. And those three pillars, inspiration, independence, and impact, aren't just the premise for this podcast, but for my work too. If you want to check out that more, be sure to go to herascensionstory.com or check me out on social media at Her Ascension Story. Welcome everyone to part 2 of this amazing chat with Mariah Snow. If you want to go back to the previous episode 2 of this podcast, you can hear all about how she grew up as a spiritual child in Alaska, grew into a rebellious teenager, and then moved to the States and slowly found her way into where she is now, which is a single mom homeschooling her kid, fully empowered and fully living her purpose as a certified therapist in beyond quantum healing. And that's what this episode is about, getting into her work and talking more about it. I really think you guys are going to like this. It is so intriguing, so let's get right into it. Okay, so what sort of dreams or goals do you feel like come to fruition because of your courage and your empowerment and your faith and your surrender and your trust in your transformation process?
Well, part of the thing that I had really struggled with, and I think a lot of people who want to do some sort of spiritual work deal with the same thing, is that I felt like until I was what I see now, where I had set up an idea of perfection, but I felt like until I was at this perfect place, I wasn't qualified to help other people. I needed to have my health 100% dialed in. I needed to be completely healthy and fully functioning. I needed to be 100% clear about my guidance, my process, and have a pile of certifications behind my name to be worthy to even offer any type of healing to other people. And that really held me back for a long time because I was still in process.
Yeah.
I mean, we're all always in process, but for some reason I had this in my mind that there was this like finish line that I would get to, and then I would be good enough to offer services to other people. And really, when I moved out, and it just so happened that my parents were remodeling their home, they had a whole, basically kind of a floor of their house that they weren't really using. It was just kind of guest space, that my son and I were able to move in here. And my mom has always been my biggest supporter and always been my greatest person to encourage me in every aspect. And she just said to me, okay, so now that you have your own space, when are you going to start taking clients? And just kind of pushed me. And it was just like, whoa, at that point, I felt like I was, really kind of a mess. It was like, well, now, like, I can't help anybody now. and she just was like, no, you absolutely can. You're already doing it. So when are you going to take clients? And money started to become, a situation. I am caring for my son 5 days a week, and I have felt called to homeschooling, just to suit his personal needs, and then also just a larger issue that I have with public schooling in general. So, it was like, how can I raise my own child, homeschool him, provide for his specific needs, and also still make a living? Um, and the answer was to work for myself out of my home. And so that also kind of propelled me forward. And when I was just kind of doing little beta sessions, not charging anyone, but just kind of dipping my toe in, getting comfortable with the idea of doing all these things for other people, the response was so positive and people were so encouraging that it just I felt this alignment just slide into place. And I realized through the work of some other people in the community and, things that they were talking about at the time, that, yeah, you do not have to be perfect. You don't have to be basically a living
Yeah,
ascended
right.
master to provide healing to other people. So I finally like let myself off the hook. It was like, yeah, you know what? I do have something to offer. And my greatest offering is my deepest desire to bring about healing and transformation for other people. And through the gift of surrender, I was able to reevaluate my role in what it does mean to facilitate transformation and healing for other people. And that was another way to kind of let myself off the hook and realize, while this energy works through me, I am not the source of this energy. I am tapping into and working with a source so much larger than the fractal that I am in this life. And that through this surrender and this trust that I've cultivated on this path, just opening myself up. And that's what I do every single session when I work with somebody, no matter what capacity we're working together in. And if you look at my website, I offer so many different varieties of services. But in every single one of them, the basic components are the same. I tap my team, I tap the person I'm working with, their team, their guides, angels, all of our teams, our galactic support, all of those sorts of things. And then I open myself up to a conduit of the universe, and I say, let the greatest healing and transformation possible come through me in this session today. And then I just know basically what to do with these people. Every single person is different, and that's why I love the work that I do, because I can give a completely specifically tailored experience to the individual, and it just flows every time. I sometimes I get a little bit of stage fright, when I'm have a client that I don't personally know in any capacity. They're a complete stranger to me, and I get a little bit of stage fright. It's still kind of, this roller coaster experience. It's like, well, what's going to happen? But every time, the creator, the universe, all of this just flows and just steps through, and these amazing transformations take place.
I've had a Beyond Quantum healing session with you, and I can still remember like exact details, like the visualizations that popped in my head during it, the emotions that I felt, and it's seriously impacted my life all the way up until this day. I recall it very often, and it's empowering, and it's healing, and it's comforting, and it's so confirming, like that validation that you get through the session, I think is really powerful, at least for me. But for the people that are listening that don't know, what exactly is beyond quantum healing?
It's this really amazing process that, if you look into what the idea regarding the quantum field is, and this is something that was really has been handed down from scientists that are working in fields of, you know, string theory, scientists that have really gone outside of the established paradigms of science. And they are figuring out that there's this field of possibility that exists where everything is very fluid. All information exists there, but it's mutable, it's accessible, and it is basically activated upon our awareness. And so when you talk about beyond quantum, it's basically going into this field of complete possibility, utter connection with the source, with the universe. It's stepping outside of constraints of physicality, time, all of these established paradigms that we have on this 3D plane. Um, and so you just kind of skyrocket past all of that. And so you're in this place where it's a very deep hypnotic trance, but the idea of hypnosis is something that really needs to be kind of updated and rediscussed in a modern context, because I think that a lot of people mistakenly think that hypnosis is a state where you are not in control of yourself. You are under someone else's control, you're under someone else's influence, your conscious mind is checked out. You can be influenced to do silly things or
Mm-hmm.
to change specific behaviors, quit smoking, weight loss, things like that. And that's really not not this type of hypnosis. I mean, I can't speak to the whole world of hypnosis. Maybe somebody else is practicing in that way. Beyond quantum healing hypnosis is not that. The thing that I think most people are surprised about is that you are 100% conscious of your surroundings, what you're saying, what the other person is saying. You're totally there. But my goal and my work as the therapist is to help you to basically step outside of your critical mind and listen to your heart and to listen to your spirit. And so that is the hypnotic induction that I do, is basically just getting you to a place where you are extremely relaxed, feeling comfortable, feeling supported. And that part of the session alone is oftentimes 45 minutes, maybe an hour if you need a little extra time. And then we get to a place where you're so relaxed that you're basically tapping your own intuition. And that sounds very surface, but in a deep brainwave state, when you tap that intuition, what you're really tapping into is the source of your intuition, which is your higher self. So at no point are we asking for any outside entities, or, we're not channeling, nothing. This is all you, yourself, your guidance, your spirit that is speaking to you from a higher aspect. So, that's another thing that I just want to say to really put people at ease, because sometimes people get really like, oh, well, who's talking through me and who are we tapping into? No, this is all you. And it's really just your highest self. It is yourself at its most ascended, at its most awake. because the things that will come through for each individual person are 100% individual to them. And you come with questions there, if there's something that's always bothered you, a question you've always had, a experience you had when you were younger that you could never quite explain, your path in this life, all these deeper questions that if you could basically ask God, that you would ask. This is the questions you bring to your session, because your higher self, your deepest soul aspect knows every answer to every question you could ever want to ask. And that's what we're tapping into. And so the things that come forward are completely varied. Some people are given experiences of other lifetimes that help them answer questions or explain certain things that they're going through in this life. Some people don't have that experience at all. Sometimes we go straight to a teaching that is coming from your highest self. There's things that your higher self really wants you to know, ways to help you, kind of get your life together or get through a certain period of time in your life that is often challenging. Sometimes it's just this direct, constant download of information, and it's always things that resonate with the person. This is never outside of something that you would feel comfortable with. I've never had anybody say, well, that felt weird, or I would never become a firefighter. It's never something like that. It's always something that when you hear it, you just have this feeling of like, I knew it. I knew it. Yep. Okay. Absolutely. I get it. Like, that's the thing that I hear the most through these sessions, is just this deep confirmation of things that you already knew. Maybe you didn't have the courage, you weren't quite sure, it sounded too grandiose, it's a leap for you, maybe, things like that. But on some level, you already knew it. And this guidance that comes through and is like, yeah, you're absolutely right. This is what you were meant for. And so it's just, everybody has such an individualized experience, and it's all specifically tailored to you and to what your questions are. And it's not fixated on past life experiences or anything like that. It's just very much this open realm where you can be shown all the deepest truths that you have ever hoped to access.
Really, I know before our session, I hope I don't offend you here, but I was definitely questioning the hypnosis aspect. Like, am I going to lose control of my mind? And is she going to go in my mind and like alter things
Yes.
that I don't have any control over? And,
Yep.
as humans, we do have concerns and fears and complexes about not having control in general. So that was definitely one of mine. But in reality,
Yeah.
it was like I was in a very deep meditation. And sometimes I work with my mantra, my Sanskrit mantra especially. And once I do that, my brain, like you said, it gets to a certain wavelength and you start vibing to a certain frequency. And once you get there, it's like a deep meditation. And the voice that I was hearing in my mind, and that, I was speaking to you. I mean, it was definitely my voice, but the voice in my head that was giving me the information and telling me what to say, it was the voice that I hear in my deep meditations, that inner guide, that inner teacher, that inner guru. And like you said, it's just our higher selves. It's our intuition relaying all of this. And for me, I definitely had reality checks. My higher self was definitely teaching me some things, especially giving me answers to certain fears that I had, and answers to, I know I asked you at least one question about like a physical health issue that I was experiencing. And yeah, and it was accurate 100% about everything. And I even remember asking questions about things that I'm currently going through right now. And if I didn't have that guidance that I got during our session, then I know that I wouldn't be able to be where I am right now with as much clarity and as much faith and as much conviction, I think. Um, it's really interesting work. So, do you think that does everyone qualify for a Beyond Quantum healing session, or do you think you have to have a certain mindset or anything like that when you go into a session?
I don't think so. It's a question that a lot of people have asked because especially there's people who have concerns like, I don't believe in past lives. So why would I have a session like this? Or can a session like this offer anything to me? And I would say absolutely, because there is one specific person that I worked with that doesn't have a personal belief in um, definitely not reincarnation, and he did not have any religious leanings or spirituality or really anything. He was really into nature, but he's like, that's really kind of as far as I go. Like, I don't know about all the rest. That's not really focus for me. But he was at a really painful place in his life with a recent divorce and a career change, and he was just kind of lost, and somebody else had recommended that he
Mm-hmm.
come have this session done, and he's just like, well, I don't have anything to lose, so why not? That is the perfect state of mind to be in. Like, let's just see what happens, because the universe will always give you what you specifically need. And so when we did this session, there was not past life experiences. It was all experiences for him that were revisited from this life. A lot of things from his
Wow.
childhood were brought up, but they were brought up from the perspective of different people in his family. And it really granted him a lot of healing because he had always, of course, seen things from his own perspective. And that was very much from a perspective of being misunderstood, unloved, left out, um, just a lot of deep emotional pain that he carried into his adult life from his childhood. And so his session specifically granted him this perspective from other people in his family of specific events that he didn't bring up with me before the session. We hadn't previously talked about these specific events, but they were so detailed and they were so specific to crystal clear memories that he had, but completely through somebody else's eyes. And he had this massive healing experience, seeing how his perception had been colored and how, in fact, that was not the way that people in his life felt about him, that was, in fact, not the intended outcome of other people's actions in his life. And just really was able to pull back in his life and see a much broader perspective. And the whole session, I mean, there were tears from the beginning to the end and so much healing. And this person, when he was finished with his session, just his whole face, every single thing about him was so much lighter. His smile was so genuine and it was so bright. And, at the beginning of the session, we didn't know each other. So there was a very impersonal handshake. At the end of the session, I think he must have hugged me maybe 5 times on the way out the door. He was just completely transformed. And there was no experience that he had that he was uncomfortable with or was unknown to him. It was all very much rooted in his life, in this incarnation, and his experiences now. And so, it can be so varied. You don't have to have any specific beliefs or ideas about things. It's really better if you're just wide open and you just have an explorer's attitude of, well, let's see what shakes out. Let's just try it. That's the best place.
Again, we can go back to that primal human brain of ours, always trying to find answers and always trying to find something to grab onto, some kind of concrete support, I guess, to help us go through the unexpected or the unknown. But yeah, when you're going through a new experience, I
Yeah.
think that an open mind is the most important and the most helpful and empowering tool that you can use, for sure. So, this impact of helping other people transform their lives, is that
Absolutely.
what you love most about your work, or what is it?
Oh yeah, I mean it's everything. It's being a witness and holding space for people that are going through these, because I sit there next to you,
Mm-hmm.
or I also do this over the phone.
Absolutely.
Our session was over the phone. And it's just as profound, but I'm there, and my focus is 100% on this person. And so, I'm holding space. I'm, if an experience is very painful for some people, emotionally painful, or they're witnessing something that's disturbing, I get to be there to help talk them through those moments. That's where some of my training in psychology and therapy comes in. And I get to kind of shape it and really like help bring this experience to the most profound place that it can. So I kind of feel like I'm like a potter or something. I have this clay, and I'm just sitting there, and the wheel is spinning. You're the wheel, you're doing the spinning and all of that, but I'm just shaping this experience. And I've tried to ask the most profound questions that I can. What does this person really want out of this experience? So I get to ask these interesting questions, these leading questions. And sometimes we end up in experiences that are like really, really cosmic. I mean, we could do a whole nother episode on some of the things that come forward in people's sessions. Just really far out, amazing cosmic things have come through. And I get to hear that. I mean, and the vibration in the room, whether there's somebody there with me or whether I'm on the phone, the vibration is incredible. And it's palpable to both people. Everybody that I've worked with has been like, I have never felt energy like that. That was wild. And I get to be there for the whole thing. And I'm such a curious person, and I love hearing people's stories, people experiences. Like, I want to know everything about everybody I know. Like, I just love that. And so this is the most profound way to do that. Like, the real shit comes out, the real good stuff, the deep stuff. It's absolutely incredible. There is nothing like it. Every time somebody books a session with me, I'm floating on air the whole time, even leading up to it. If it's a week, all day long for the weeks or the days leading up to it, I'm just floating on air. I'm like, oh my gosh, I get to do this. This is going to be incredible. I'm usually as excited, if not more, than the person who's having the session. It's so profound.
Like you said about your one client, how before he was very formal and very kind of closed off, and by the end of it you're just so open because you can get so real and you uncover so much healing. And when you just rip off those
Yeah.
layers of protection, or not necessarily protection, but just like that armor that we put on to stay disconnected from people just to keep ourselves safe. Yeah, and when you can take that off and
Yeah.
actually dive into the healing, and the transformation happens, and I'm sure it's incredible for you to just witness all of that, like you said.
Yeah, because there's always this point in the session where I will ask for healing and cleansing for the client. And so we ask that all blockages, especially if you already know, if you have something specific, blockages around money, relationships, sexuality, all sorts of things. I always ask for a cleansing and a clearing and a healing. So we ask that all blockages be removed and all imbalances be corrected. And anywhere that there was something that was of a lower vibration that had taken root, anywhere where that is removed, the remaining space, I call in the healing light of the universe, the creator. If
Mm-hmm.
there's a specific word you like me to use, I'm always happy to use whatever word resonates with, the client the most, to fill those spaces and to fill that. And so there is not only a healing that happens in the things that are brought forward and the information that is conveyed through these sessions, but there's also a very real and palpable healing that takes place when I ask your team and your higher self to perform this healing and cleansing on your physical vessel in this now. So, I mean, it's healing on every level that there is. Like, we hit it, we're there, we access it, and that's just, just another amazing layer to this transformational process, and where I can see the physical changes in people from before and after. Like, there's nobody that their face hasn't looked completely different to me. Eyes are brighter, more relaxed, smiles are bigger and more genuine. Just just this profound shift that takes place with all that healing that we call in. And oftentimes people are just brought to places within their session where um, that particular experience is just about being bathed in love. That's something that's been happening more often in the last few sessions I've done, is that they're brought to a place where there is no other input. They're not in a specific time or place. They have no sense of their bodies. And as I continue to
Yeah.
ask questions and work through that experience, because that starts to feel like it's not working. I'm not anywhere. I'm not hearing anything. I'm not seeing anything. I don't feel anything. And it's finally come through, and I get it now, that these are places where people are being brought to just to experience love. And that's so often where we work a lot with the heart chakra and doing these major heart openings. And, I'm happy to sit there 15, 20, 30 minutes and just let you soak in this experience of love and acceptance and transformation. And then oftentimes when we move on from that to other experiences within the session, it's so much more profound because there's been such a healing and clearing that
Oh,
happens.
yeah. It's not just that talk therapy that you get or anything else through that session. I mean, this is so effective. And I've tried a lot, Reiki and all these different modalities, and this is definitely one of the most profound transformational experiences that I've ever had. Okay, so what sort of plans do you have for your work as you continue growing
Excellent.
and
Yes.
expanding in all of it?
Well, something very exciting that some therapists are doing is doing group sessions. And I'm really intrigued by that, about the idea of getting an entire group of people together who are having this transformational experience. And there's often that is an opportunity where, you can really work this method through a personal lens, where you're addressing specific personal things that people are going through. But another aspect of this work is that you can tap into universal questions and issues that are going on, right? So you can ask questions like, what are the pyramids really for? Or, what is the construct of time and where does this come from? These super profound, way cosmic questions. Or what is the meaning of what's happening right now? What is ascension? What is next? What's up with the virus? All these things. Like, you can take it to a much broader perspective in this state and get really profound guidance, information, deep, deep, deep insight. I've done this work with a couple of my clients where they did want to have more of kind of a cosmic focus, or profound questions. They weren't so much concerned about the personal journey. And so I would really like to, that is really exciting to me, is also that type of work. And I've heard that in these group sessions, like, really big, profound pockets of information and truth about humanity, this planet, other planets, the galactics, things like that will come through. So
I
interesting
think
to
we
me.
are going to have to make another episode where we talk about certain people's experiences throughout your sessions, and any kind of information that you've gotten about the coronavirus, or even now with all of the protests and the rioting happening across the country. And this has been such a big transformational year for not just our country, but for the world. And because you work on this quantum level where everything is there,
Yeah,
it would definitely be interesting to hear what comes through about it all, about just the transformation process and the ascension that we're going through, and how all of the events that are happening, like the fires and the floods and the virus and the rioting and absolutely everything, how it culminates into, guys, like, this looks really scary and this looks super shitty to be going through, but it would be nice to offer some insight on how it truly is directing us into a more aware and a more active and a more unified state moving forward.
absolutely. It's so comforting, to hear the plan, that this isn't random, this isn't actually chaos, that there is a plan, there is an underlying, uh, system to what is happening, and this has
Mm.
been untold thousands of millions of years in the making. To put it in the context of
Yeah.
time, of course, time is just a human 3D construct, but this is not an accident. This is not chaos, and to have that deeper perspective is so comforting. And yeah, I would absolutely be happy to talk more about that, because that's really what's coming through, is nothing about this is chaotic.
With all of your adversities and successes and the impacts and your current work, who is the superhero inside of you that has all the unleashable power you could possibly ever need?
Well, really, I think that comes to me with the knowing, the real integration of the wisdom teaching that we are eternal. Like, when I really, really, really think about that my soul, and this is of course my personal belief and experience, but I believe that we are fractals of a soul, and that we have so many experiences through, multiple lifetimes all over the galaxies. And to kind of pull back and to look at things from that perspective, and to know that there's my human aspect that came here under the veil of forgetfulness. We when we incarnate into the 3D, we agree to lose a lot of our conscious connection to have the experience that we're meant to have. And so to know that just because my 3D human mind feels a certain way and has had certain experiences, that is just kind of a compartmentalized part of this much larger eternal picture, then it's like, of course I can do this. I'm sure I've done far more challenging things, had way more unbelievable experiences in other lifetimes. Like, of course I've got this. Like, how could I not? We're eternal. There's no end. This is yet one experience that we created, we agreed to, we entered knowingly, and all I got to do is put one foot in front of the other and watch it unfold as it is meant to be.
That knowing and that trust and that surrender, I think that's the most empowering thing that we can take with us, especially forward into the rest of this year, as I'm sure more questionable things will happen, and everything else.
Right. Yeah. Sometimes things feel like a punishment or feel like a tragedy. But if you look at the way that everything has to work, we, on a soul level, know that we can handle so much more than what our human minds tell us we can handle. And we sometimes take on roles and take on experiences that seem so tragic, but the soul part of ourselves knows that these experiences have to play out in this 3D world to move the narrative forward. This is not a dimension and a world and a time where we just get to come here and live our best lives all day, every day, and everybody gets to, feel like they're at a party and there's no adversity and there's no struggle. That wasn't what this particular life is about. And we knew that on the other side before we came here. And it's a lot of our conditioning and a lot of the limitations of our 3D human mind that fails to see the larger perspective in things. And it feels like, and it's meant to feel that way because that's what, that's part of what propels us forward, right? We want to propel humanity out of this, lower vibrational state that we find, the majority of society in. So we have to feel victimized, right? In order to move through that. It's, and that's why I say, like, none of this is a mistake. None of this is chaos. Like, we have to feel these things. We signed up to feel these things and have these experiences so that we could move through the process of ascension. Ascension is not like a light switch. You don't just, okay, it's ascension time, click, and here we are.
And this concludes our 2-part series with Mariah Snow. Unfortunately, our conversation got cut a little short today because of technical issues, but you can go back to episode 2, the part 1 with Mariah, where she talks about her spiritual journey and all of the amazing, juicy things about life, like being an authentic woman and how it can start a revolution in your own life through traumas and healing and everything else. And of course, I recommend checking out her work in more depth. I think Beyond Quantum Healing is something that absolutely everyone can benefit from. I know this from personal experience, and you can go to her website, alchemistress.net, and you can also find her on Instagram at Mariah Alchemistress. Thank you so much for listening again. I love you guys. Chat soon. Thank you for listening to this podcast. I hope that this episode has somewhat inspired you to take control, given you the tools to feel secure and on fire in your own independence, and help to unlock within you the impact that you're here to make. You're not born with a purpose. You're born as your purpose. It's already inside of you, and it's your responsibility in this life to live that in the truest way possible. If you've gotten any sort of value out of this episode, please share it so that we can together expand our inspiration and our impact in this world.